What is up, guys? Welcome on into Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Jared Smith. Jared, happy post-Christmas day. How was your day yesterday?
Oh, it was great. How about yourself? How's Florida?
Good. It's good. It's chillier than normal here. It's like 50 degrees, but you know what? We played some pickleball yesterday. My whole family's in
Nice.
town, trying to corral before the show. Like everyone, I'm like, sorry guys, I have to do my show for a few minutes. Everyone's being really nice and quiet, all scattered around the house right now. So it's all good. They're all listening live. We got a lot of live
Yeah,
listeners in
we'll
person. So that was
get you out of
good.
here fast so we can go back to family time over this holiday.
You'll love to see it. All right, we got a lot of things to talk about today. First of all, winners and losers from Week 16, which we got a few of those from this past weekend. Monday Night Football preview. We have the Chargers taking on the Colts tonight. We have 5 burning NFL questions, and then college football bowl games, which mainly is just one bowl game today in my hometown of Detroit. We'll chat about that. There's a lot of games tomorrow, a lot of games on Wednesday, so it's going to be exciting to get to those at those respective days. First of all, let's just start out with the winners and losers. You go first, Jared. Who's your biggest winner of Week 16 so far?
I would say the Houston Texans. I'm really impressed with their performance, much to my chagrin, of course. Gave out best bet last
Mm-hmm.
week. They shit the bed, for lack of a better word. Derrick Henry fumbles in the fourth quarter and the final minutes with a lead. And then Houston goes right down the field, scores a touchdown, gets it right back, scores again. I mean, it was very impressive. Whatever Lovie Smith is selling to this Texans team, they clearly are buying, because now this is 3 consecutive fantastic performances. They hang with the Chiefs, they hang with the Cowboys, and then they beat the Titans outright. Tennessee is in absolute free fall right now. And the reason that I put this on the sheet today is because what we're seeing in the market overnight, this has been the most intriguing overnight session that I can recall this year in the NFL. We are seeing a ton of movement from some unusual suspects onto and off of key numbers. And the Texans are one
Mm-hmm.
of them, with their game next week. And again, please go read my Pickswise Early Birds column. I was actually very impressed that I had both of the biggest movers in the column from the overnight. Not to toot my own horn, but that was I was surprised to wake up and see the Texans Jaguars line go from 5.5 to 4 overnight. And I think a lot of it is just because of what is going to happen next week, not this week, next week. So the Jaguars, of course, play the Titans next week in a game that basically will decide the AFC South. This week's game means absolutely nothing. The Jaguars could win, they could tie, they could lose. They still need to beat the Titans next week. The Titans this week,
Yeah.
they can win, they can tie, they can lose. Doesn't matter. They still need to beat the Jaguars next week. So a very fascinating week from a market perspective for Tennessee, and for Jacksonville. And we'll see where those lines shake out. Tennessee, of course, has a game against the Cowboys on Thursday night. A little bit different of a scenario because Dallas is coming off of a great win, and of course they're a great team. But the Texans getting some movement overnight I thought was very curious, and I was very impressed with their performance on Saturday in frigid Nashville.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to watch all of these games this weekend too, just seeing the temperatures because everywhere was cold except for Miami, and Miami couldn't even get a win. So, interesting to see that. Dare I say my winner is I actually have 2 winners this week, but dare I say one of them is the Green Bay Packers? I have shown a lot of hate for them all season long, but Aaron Rodgers is showing why he's really good. They beat the Dolphins, 3 straight wins. They're still alive in the NFC wildcard race, the same record as the Seahawks fans right now. If the Commanders lose, they're in prime position at this point to take advantage. They have games against the Vikings and the Lions. Obviously, I'm rooting for my Lions. I want them to win in this spot, but their defense looked really good. They forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions on the Dolphins' final 3 drives, which kind of sealed the deal for them. I liked what I saw from the Green Bay Packers. Not saying, again, they're the real deal by any means, but they were one of my winners from week 16. The other one, Brock Purdy. Again, the 49ers won their 8th game in a row. Yes, their defense is phenomenal. Yes, their team is based on their defense, but Purdy is 3-0, Jared, as a starter at this point. He threw to George Kittle twice for touchdowns. 37 points was the most they've scored with him as a starter. He's extremely poised. He's not making mistakes. And that's kind of all that you need from him to make a push in the postseason. 15 of 22 for 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He looked really good to me again. And I'm not saying like he's the end all be all quarterback. This guy's the real, like, but he's solid. And that's really all that they need to fit into their lineup at this point. Your biggest loser. Who do you got? And I feel like I agree with you on this one, but I wanted to talk about another team as the biggest loser. But who's your biggest loser from Week 16?
The Denver Broncos. That
So
was the
bad.
ugliest performance I think I've ever seen. I think that was the worst game of the year, and that includes when the Colts got blasted by the Cowboys on their primetime game. But this one was worse because of what took place on the sidelines during the game. Dalton Risner, I think, was the guard that got
Mm-hmm.
into like a fight. It was like a shoving, screaming match
Yeah.
with Brett Rippon, the quarterback. And I saw some sideline footage of it from one of the people videoing it, not like the what the broadcast camera had, but like, iPhone footage. And just the things that
Mm-hmm.
he was saying, Rip, like you could just tell how dysfunctional and how much anger and hatred is flowing through that locker room right now. And I get it. Like you pay you pay Russ all this money. He comes in and he looks like a high school quarterback. I mean, he made throws yesterday. I'm pretty confident I could have made better throws yesterday. Like I don't know where he was going. I don't know what he was looking at. I don't know what is going through his head right now. But the first 2 drives of the game were just like awful. And then they come out in the second half, and what was being said at halftime? Like I don't understand
I don't
what's
know.
going on in Denver right now. And I hate to say, but when that win total came out at 10 over the summer, I was like, yeah, that's a really high win total for a first year guy in a new system, and I don't know what's going on with this head coach. They're not even going to come. They're not even going to win half their win total projection this year, which was 10. So, yeah, they're going to get their asses kicked by the Chiefs this week. I don't know who they play in the final game, but they're going to finish 4-13 probably this year in one of the worst seasons that I can recall in NFL history with a $250 million starting quarterback. So Broncos, absolutely. I would say biggest loser of the season, frankly, Denver
Yeah.
Broncos.
Yeah. Even with 2 weeks left, we can already say that the Denver Broncos are the biggest loser of the season. Mine, because I just didn't want to talk about the Broncos twice, is the Lions defense. It's been their Achilles heel all season long, Jared. I know they tightened up the last 7 weeks, only allowing 19.7 points per game, but what do people say? People never change. They're back to their old ways. They made the Panthers and Sam Darnold look like a Super Bowl team at this point. They racked up 320 yards rushing. I know the Lions have still won 6 of their last 8, but now they need some help to make it to the playoffs. They have to win out. The Commanders have to drop one. But I just hope this was a one and done for the Lions defense. Like, hey, let's figure it out again and let's do what we've been doing the last 7 weeks. People never change. You saw what happened against the Panthers. It's okay. I'm I'm still trying to like digest it. Like there wasn't even a chance for the Lions to win that game. They have 2 games left now against the Bears and the Packers in week 18. That week 18 game is going to be massive if the Packers win this next week. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Okay, your biggest overreaction. I think we're both on the same one with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, and I liked what I saw from Gardner Minshew, and I know he threw 2 picks, and
Yeah.
the Eagles turned it over a ton, and the Cowboys ended up front door covering that spread. But I still thought Gardner played fine. I had him as the third highest rated quarterback of the week in the efficiency ratings. And that's pretty impressive considering, again, he did throw 2 interceptions. If you exclude turnovers, he's even higher on that list. And I think it's really the Philly defense that's going to continue to carry this team. I think they're going to win this week. I think, you hope. But
Hmm.
you look at this Eagles team overall, and I still feel like they're the top seed, even without Jalen Hurts. I think their defense is playing well enough. And if Hurts comes back in the playoffs, we'll see what happens. But I think a lot of people are going to probably, I don't know if they're going to or not, but a lot of people might be ready to jump off the bandwagon after that loss because Minshew's numbers maybe on the surface level with the 2 picks won't look as good. But I thought it was interesting that the Saints, they went into Cleveland and won a tough game in tough conditions, an indoor team going outdoors and winning, in a tough environment, and the Eagles losing in Dallas despite having a lead. And that line from the look ahead goes from Philly -5.5 to 6.5. And I think that's pretty impactful. That's a pretty impactful move. I even saw it touch 7 at one spot overnight. It's been really strange overnight in the NFL. A lot of movement overnight, and I
Hmm.
think it makes sense if you consider we're at the end of the season and there's some very intriguing storylines that probably can't be quantified in the market. And I think the sophisticated money gobbled up a lot of these spots very quickly. And I think this is one of them, going from Philly to 7 here. I think Philly beats the Saints this week. I think they clinch the number 1 seed this week. We'll see if they cover the 7. But I think this is an overreaction week for the Eagles where people might be a little bit sour on Minshew's performance. But I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We have one more week 16 game to wrap it up before we get into week 17 the rest of the week. I know we have our Pickswise playbook show coming up in a couple days, so make sure to check that out. We'll be breaking down all of the games, me, Jared, and our friend Tank Williams. But week 16, to wrap it on up, we have the Chargers heading on into Indy to take on the Indianapolis Colts. The Chargers right now laying 4 points. That total is set at 45.5. And you look at the Chargers, they want to strengthen their lead in the AFC wildcard race. They beat the Titans last week in week 15, and the Colts were on the wrong side of one of the biggest comebacks in NFL history where the Vikings outscored them in the second half 36-3. It's going to be interesting to see if the Colts come out with any energy after getting their asses beat last week. Being at home might help. I just heard my grandma laugh. My grandma's sitting right here and she's laughing. It's great. But the Chargers could crush them on Monday. And I just look at, Justin Herbert. They have the second highest passing play percentage in the NFL. They're averaging 274.2 yards through the air. Well, Indy just got torched for 460 passing yards and 4 touchdowns by Minnesota. I feel like Justin Herbert could have himself a game here. How do you think this one plays out?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Chargers, of course, can clinch the postseason with a win. Keep that in the back of your mind tonight, everybody. That's probably the biggest motivational factor for LA tonight. Does that mean they cover the spread? Who knows? Saw this line move off the 3 earlier this week. Touched 4.5 over at Westgate, our pals at the Superbook. And then kind of got bought back down to 4. It looks like 4 painted across the market right now. Total's been dropping steadily throughout the week. Reopened 49 last Sunday, and now we're sitting at 45.5 across the board, pretty much all over this great planet here. So 4 and 45.5 looks like closing numbers here. I don't have a ton on the handicap because I didn't really like this game, last week when I was going through all of my prep, and I wish we had Bobby on today because I'm curious what his props are, because I think this game does have a prop perspective because of the vast differences in some of the blocking and the rush yards numbers. I did see Austin Eckler on his article. He does have an article up today, so be sure to check that out. I'll give you the plays right now that he has in his column in case you're too, hungover from all your Yuletide eggnog this weekend to read it. Garrett Everett over 31.5 receiving yards. Austin Eckler over 32.5 receiving yards. Zach Moss, Keenan Allen, your anytime touchdown bets. I won't go too much into the handicap. Go to Pickswise.com and read it. I don't have anything for you here, guys. I really don't. I'm not betting this game probably. Maybe I'll put a little on Bobby's props. I think the Chiefs, or excuse me, I think the Chargers have a bit of an edge with their offense, but their
Mm-hmm.
offensive line's been in shambles this year, and the Colts defense has gotten after you a little bit. So I could see Yannick Ngakoue having a big game and putting a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert. I could absolutely see Eckler in the passing game with Bobby's prop being a nice safety valve here. Um, I thought Braden Smith, the right tackle for the Colts, came back last week and played well against the Vikings. He's going to be important to try to keep Nick Foles upright. It is Nick Foles playing tonight, right? It's still Foles. Is that the case?
Yeah, it still falls. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll be honest. I think Foles at 4. That might be. I mean, swinging it around, old Big Dick Nick. Santa Claus here. After the holiday season, I would say the Colts at 4 would be the only way that I would personally bet this game from a side perspective. But I don't really have much for you guys here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do have a best bet in this game, but you're gonna have to wait till the end. It may or may not be a team total for one of the teams. So make sure to wait till the end of our plays of the day. But yeah, the Chargers taking on the Colts tonight. That wraps up week 16. And then after that, we only have 2 weeks left of the regular season before postseason starts. And I know a lot of these teams are trying to make a push at this point, which brings us into our next game, which is 20 questions, except for with only 5 questions, we're cutting it down by about 3/4. Question number 1 for you, Gerard. Who do you like the most to make the playoffs at this point? There's a lot of teams on the outside. Right here on our list, we have the Steelers, Jaguars, and Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins at this point have a 75% chance of making it. The Jags have a really good shot. The Steelers are down to like less than 20%. So I'm going to also add the Lions and the Commanders into that one. Do you like the
Oh wow.
Jaguars, the Lions, or the Commanders the most to make it into the playoffs?
Jaguars, Lions, Commanders. Uh,
Yes, sir.
Browns, Cowboys for the Commanders. The tie screws up a
Hmm.
lot of things. I think the Lions
I
have a
know.
have a pretty tough road. Um, they're gonna listen. The Packers are making the playoffs. Can I just say that? Like the Packers are making the playoffs. I
What?
have zero doubts in my mind about that. Um, yeah, absolutely. You saw that. You watched the game yesterday, right? Um, Aaron
Hmm.
Rodgers is ready to go, man. And that defense
I
made
mean,
some
he
fair.
was
I
my
mean, they
biggest
held the
winner
Dolphins.
this week. They were my winner. They were my winner.
They held the Dolphins offense scoreless in the second half. I mean, Joe Barry
Crazy.
gets the tip of the cap there. I have no idea. I don't think the Lions are making the playoffs. I'd like to see the Jaguars make the playoffs. I think that'd be a fun story. I think the NFC
Hmm.
is a shitbox right now. So I'll be honest. Can I be honest? 60-1 on the Packers to win the Super Bowl is not a terrible bet right now. If they make the playoffs, that's going to get cut in half in 2 weeks. Um, and Aaron Rodgers, like imagine Aaron Rodgers going into Philly in the divisional round. I mean, that's a game that I could see them winning as long as he could stay upright.
What?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about momentum at this stage of the season,
I love
LJ. I
these
mean, they
I
Aaron
love these bold
Aaron
comments.
Rodgers.
I love them.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm a little bit sour because of our Bengals. Lyle Collins tore his ACL yesterday or Saturday. That's a
Hmm.
terrible, terrible loss at this stage of the year to lose your right tackle. So I'm a little less bullish on my Bengals pick at this stage of the season. To answer this question, I have no idea. I think the Jaguars because all they have to do is win one game, right? Like all they have to do is go to
Yeah.
Tennessee or it's a home game. All they have to do is beat Tennessee with Malik Willis in 2 weeks and they're in the playoffs. So I'd say the Jags.
Yeah, and you saw what they were able to do last year with the Colts and spoil their playoff chances. The Jags do something the last couple weeks of the season to ruin other people's chances of getting to the postseason. And now that they actually have postseason implications, I feel like that's amped up a little bit more. Next up, this was a question that I had last week too. Who the heck is going to win the NFC South? Because right now the Bucks are 7-8, the Panthers are 6-9 after beating the Lions, the Saints are 6-9, the Falcons are now mathematically eliminated. But who wins the NFC South at this point? And do they finish over 500?
No, well, they can't. I mean, can they? They have 8 losses.
The
Yeah, they
Bucks.
can. They have to
The
win
Bucks.
2 in a row. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
can. They certainly can. Um, so that's another one that was I tweeted out that it was one of the strangest overnight um, periods in the NFL market openers that I can recall. One of the other leans that we gave out in the early birds column was the Panthers at 6.5. So the Panthers face the Bucks
Mm-hmm.
this week. It's basically the season for both teams. Um, that moved to 3 overnight, like in a minute. And Superbook even has the line off at this point. I don't know what something's going on with the Carolina Bucks game, because that went from 6.5 now to 3 overnight, and it's not even on the board at Westgate. So something weird's going on. I don't know what. I don't know if Brady got hurt. I don't know. That is an intriguing line move overnight from 6.5 to 3, and now off the board at Superbook. So I think if I had to pick it today, I would take Carolina. I mean, I watched that whole Bucks game last night. I said last week on Playbook that if Brady lost to Trace McSorley, he should retire on the field. He almost
Yeah.
lost to Trace McSorley last night.
There's
And
McSorley.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
watched the game. Like, Trace was awful. And I love Trace, but he completed one pass the whole night that was like, all right, he can throw the ball. And it was like a long throw deep down the field that one of his guys made a really nice play on. But the Cardinals were awful, and the Bucks still almost lost that game. I don't trust Tampa right now at all. So I would say Carolina based off that overnight movement. Clearly, there's some love in the market for the Panthers.
Absolutely. There's also some love for our guy, Patty Ice, Patrick Mahomes. Is he the MVP at this point? They beat the Seahawks on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve 24-10, 16 of 28, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Is he the MVP right now of the season?
Yeah. Next question. Done. It's over. Done.
Yes, period.
There's nothing
Next
more
question.
to
Are
add.
the Eagles from?
He's like minus 500 to win the award. So, yeah, minus 500 right now to win the award. So, yes, next question.
Next question. Are the Eagles frauds?
No, they're not frauds. They're a good team. They have the best. I think they have one of the best defenses in the league. They have the most sacks in the NFL. They're a top 5 defensive unit. Jalen Hurts is playing at an MVP level. I don't think he is the MVP, but he's on that tier. And they're not frauds. I just don't think there's a dominant team in the NFC. So fraud, I think, is a very harsh word. Are they as good as their record indicates? No, they're probably, 2 or 3 losses beneath that. They're probably playing like a 2 seed, but to be fair, there's really no 1 seeds in the NFC. There's a lot of 2 seeds. Like, who's the dominant team in the NFC? Ain't the Vikings, that's for sure. The Niners have a backup quarterback that at some point is going to play like his experience indicates. And the Cowboys have, cough it up Prescott playing quarterback for them. So there isn't a number 1 seed in the NFC. I think you have 4 2 seeds. Maybe the Vikings are like a 2.5. And then you have a lot of, average fringe teams beneath them. I put Tampa and Green Bay and Carolina. But the difference is Green Bay has the 2-time MVP. That's the difference, I think, with the NFC. There isn't a player at the top of the NFC with Dallas and San Francisco and Minnesota and Philly that has the ability of Aaron Rodgers. There isn't one. If you put Aaron Rodgers on any one of those other teams I just mentioned, most notably Green Bay and San Francisco and Philly, that's the team, right? Like that. Every team in the NFC that's at the top is an Aaron Rodgers away, and every team that's at the bottom is a remainder of the roster away. Like it's very hilarious to kind of see it play out. But no, the Eagles are not frauds. They're just not a dominant 14-1 seed in terms of their roster. I think.
I know. Well, the AFC has a lot of dominant seeds right now. Are the Bengals, at this point, the last team that anyone wants to see in the playoffs, even with the injury to the right tackle?
Yeah, I agree. But I'm a little scared anytime you lose one of your best offensive linemen 2 weeks before the playoff starts. So I wouldn't want to face Burrow and that offense. The defense, too, is just unbelievable. I mean, if it wasn't for Burrow and Chase making the one bet, like that was you watched the game, it was a pick 6. It was just like a bad read. Like it wasn't like a bad play. It was just they were not on the same page for one play, and the Patriots made the one play that got them back in the game. If that doesn't happen and that's just like an incomplete pass, the Bengals win by 3 scores, and we're not even talking about, the Patriots coming back and making that close. But yeah, the offensive lineman injury leaves kind of a bad taste in my mouth heading into the playoffs, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 2 weeks left. Still a lot of storylines to be written for the postseason. We'll see how these wild card spots play out. We'll see which teams are matching up with which other teams. We're going to be breaking down all of Week 17 on Pickswise Playbook, so make sure to tune into that. Let's get into bowl games because we only have one today. We had zero yesterday. We have like four tomorrow, four on the 28th, a lot on the 29th, and then as we work our way up to the college football playoffs on New Year's Eve. Is there any games that you're looking at specifically this weekend? Have you taken a look at the Quick Lane Bowl at all at Ford Field? New Mexico State taking on Bowling Green. Which games stand out to you this week?
Yeah, we'll talk about today's games. I'm sure there's some people in the chat that want to bet on today. I did see
Yeah.
Bowling Green move off to 3 overnight, and it looks like 3.5, even 4 is kind of where that number's trending. I did bet Bowling Green at 3. I put it out on my profile, so hopefully some of you that were, in degenerate mode last night that were looking at my spreadsheet or my various betting profiles saw that I did get in on Bowling Green
Mm-hmm.
laying 3. I think New Mexico State's a really nice story. I mean, this is a team that didn't even have practice facilities over the summer. Jerry Kill, first year as his head coach there. Of course, Jerry's been, a college coach for years. He coached at Minnesota for a while. Um, 1-5 ATS in bowl games, though. So again, when he goes to the bowl games, doesn't always have his team prepared. Scott Loeffler's done a really nice job with this Bowling Green program. His fourth year, first bowl appearance. Of course, this is a Bowling Green team that after Dino Babers left to Syracuse about 6 years or so ago. I mean, it's just been a disaster
Mm-hmm.
for Bowling Green. They haven't been to a bowl game since. Well, they're back. And this is an offense that likes to run really fast. Remember, Babers ran the Falcon fast offense. They still kind of run that in a sense. They're not very efficient at doing it. They're a top 40 tempo. They run a play every 25 seconds. So the over would be the only way I would bet this total, even though neither offense is really efficient. So you're probably going to be pulling your hair out if you bet the over at some point with this game.
Yeah.
And the strength of New Mexico's defense is their secondary. And I think that's probably why I would stay away from this over, just because Bowling Green's offense is not very efficient. And
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico State can defend a little bit, but I don't know how good New Mexico State really is, because their best wins over Liberty, and that was after Liberty quit when Hugh Freeze,
Yeah.
announced he was leaving to Auburn. So I don't really have a whole lot of faith in New Mexico State. I think the number here coming off the 3 tells me that, Bowling Green's the right side. The one player to keep a very close eye on in this game is Carl Brooks. He's the best player on the field. He's going to be an NFL draft pick. And much to people's surprise, he actually opted into this bowl game. And he's arguably one of the best defensive players in the country. In fact, Pro Football Focus has the best defensive grade on him of any edge rusher, 92nd on the big board. So again, he's going to be probably a, second day draft pick. And this is a Bowling Green defense that can get after you a little bit. 11th in the country with 37 sacks, and they're 9th in quarterback pressures. So I don't even know who's playing quarterback for New Mexico State. It's kind of like this unknown situation. So I think Bowling Green and Carl Brooks specifically are going to be in the backfield all day against this New Mexico State offense, and that's why I laid the 3. And that's really my only feel for this game from a betting perspective.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you on that too, because the Aggies played one of the easiest schedules in the whole country this year. Two of their wins were against FCS teams too. I know they have the 14th best secondary in the nation, basically. They're 14th in the nation against the pass. They're only allowing 185 yards per game. And Bowling Green's strength is their passing game, which goes up against the Aggies' top unit. But again, how well can you actually rank a team secondary when they play the easiest schedule or one of the easiest schedules in the entire country? But Ford Field, good place to be playing the day after Christmas. You love to see it, the Quick Lane Bowl. Again, Jared laying 3 points with Bowling Green. It's up to 3.5. Would you still take it at 3.5 with Bowling Green?
Sure, why not? Have fun.
Have fun, people. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, my friends, we are all rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored at any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. From superbook.com, Gerard, to pickswise.com, who we got play of the day? Or three-star plays of the day.
Nothing, actually, unfortunately. I would go read
for post
Bobby's.
Christmas.
Yeah, I would go read Bobby's props column. I would read my early birds column. If you read my early birds column last night and you bet all of the games on this board, you are feeling good about your early CLV there. Um, and then yeah, if you want some nuggets for tonight, Bobby's got some good ones on there. He's on a 14-6 run with his props. He's been on fire. I bet him all on Saturday. He did unbelievably. He's rocking it right now.
Yeah, Bobby Stanley, we miss you. Hope you had a great holiday with your family. I'm sure we'll be talking to him Thursday for Thursday Night Football, Week 17, to kick it all off. Okay, Jared, best bets of the day. Who you got for yours?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you Bowling Green. It's not a great day for best bets. There's obviously only 2 games today. From my perspective, there's no college basketball, one college football game and one NFL game.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not gonna bet the NFL game unless something tickles my fancy over the next few hours. But the Chargers should win. But how can you lay points with the Chargers? Like you're just asking for trouble. So I'll give you Bowling
Mm-hmm.
Green, and I bet the 3.5 here if you can't find a 3. I do have a 3 in my back pocket, so I feel pretty good about that. But again, it's Jerry Kill against Scott Loeffler, and I know Jerry Kill's had a nice year. It's been a fun season for this Aggies team, but I think in general they're just not a good football team, top to bottom. And this is a team that's probably just happy to be in a bowl game, whereas Bowling Green understands what it's like to go to Ford Field and win. They play in this part of the country. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to travel too far. They should have a decent amount of fans in the stands, you would think, post Christmas Day. And they have the best player on the field, linebacker Carl Brooks, who will be a draft pick, probably a second-day pick, and he is going to be living in this Bowling Green or in this New Mexico State backfield. So again, don't love the number at 3.5, but very few options on the board today. So I will give you Bowling Green laying it in the quick lane
Mm-hmm.
bowl.
I'm looking at the final game of Week 16 for my best bet of the day. It's the Chargers taking on the Colts, and no chance I am taking a side in this one because the Chargers continuously charger and do what they do best and find ways to lose games. And the Colts, there's no way I have faith in them supporting them getting 4 points at home, especially after getting dominated in the second half last week. So what I'm looking at is the Indiana team total under. Their offense looked so different last game. They actually scored points, 36 of them to be exact, but that was against a Minnesota defense who is one of the worst defenses in the NFL this season. The Vikings gave the Colts great field position. They had early turnovers. I feel like that game is kind of an outlier compared to how the Colts offense plays the rest of the season. You look at a team like the Chargers, who their last 2 weeks they took on the Dolphins and the Titans, and they held them to a combined 34 points over the last 2 weeks. And then the Colts have scored less than 21 points in 11 of their 14 games this season. There's only been 3 games that they've scored over 21 points. So getting the minus 110 at 20.5, I feel pretty good about it going up against the Chargers defense. It's not horrible. They're not great. They're kind of average, but I just don't think we're going to see a repeat of 36 Colts offensive points in a game like this. That was definitely the outlier. And I feel like the Chargers are going to be able to shut them down at least a little bit. I feel like we're going to get not a super low scoring game, but not, it's just kind of like middle of the road. But I feel like the Chargers win this one. Maybe they cover. We'll see. But I kind of like the Colts under, team total under 20.5. So lock that in, baby. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's get it. Let's bet it.